That person might be, it's like in a video cut out there. That person might be trying to get you caught up in your worldly emotions and you don't see it because you have been disarmed. See? Someone can disarm you in many ways. Let's say you've got a sword. They may grab your hand and they take the sword out of your hand. Someone may disarm you another way by making you think that they're not your enemy. See what I'm saying? You've got to be strategic in this thing, man. You've got to be able to see all these corners and angles that most people don't see because they're thinking carnally. If you're carnal minded, you're at enmity with the will of the Most High. So therefore you have to be spiritually minded. And when you're spiritually minded, you start to see through these things. So let's say your mama, let's use your mama as an example. She's coming up to you and she's like, oh, I love you, son. You're my little boy, you know, I've always loved you since you was a little baby and all this kind of shit. And you're disarmed by her because you don't see this person as a threat because that person is making you soft. That person's making you soft. They're making you weak. You know, some time ago, I got into this with my mother because I had to say, look, man, I ain't about being soft. You can't bring a child into this world and not prepare them for the world that they have to deal with. You know, you can't be having your little boy like just wet and moist and all this kind of shit. A boy needs to become a man. You know, we can't be wet, we can't be moist and all this kind of stuff. We can't be overly emotional, man. So my point is that person can be a foe, even though you might not think it. But that person is a foe because they are weakening you. They're weakening you by making you feel all this. Oh, but I love my mum and all this kind of stuff. See what I'm saying, man? They got you, man. That person, yeah, they might not be having a knife and trying to move on you and stuff, but they still got you because they made you weak, you know? So therefore, yes, you can be, you know, you're going to love your mum and your dad. You're supposed to honour their mother and their father, but not to the point where it's going to get you caught up in your emotions and make you weak, you know, because that's when the demons come in and the demons are going to play you like a flipping harp. They'll play on all these emotions like, okay, ting, ting, ting. They're going to get all these things and you're going to be all fucked up in the spirit because the demons are working on you now. Spiritual warfare. So it says, and a man, Matthew 10:36, and a man's foes shall be those of his own household. Yahushua knew this stuff, man. That's why Yahushua, when his mum was like looking for him, when he was 12 and he was teaching in the temple, and Yahushua was like, no, you not that, it must be about my father's business. Mary was all emotional because she lost him and she was worried about him, but Yahushua was, look, man, I've got work to do, you know, I've got work to do. I've got to do my father's will. That's how we're supposed to be, man. Verse 37, Matthew 10:37, he that loveth father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. That's a scary scripture right there. Let me read that again. He that loveth father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And he that loveth son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And he that taketh not his cross and followeth after me is not worthy of me. He that findeth his life shall lose it. Ooh, cut there. Ooh. Like, let's say you find happiness in this world. You find your wife. You find your wife and your children, your sons, your daughters, and you find happiness here. Guess what? You're going to lose it. Because the scripture said it. He that findeth his life shall lose it. And he that loseth his life for my sake shall find it. So we got to let go, man. There's that Mariah Carey song, you know, can't let go. Well, you got to let go, otherwise you're through. You know, you got to let go, man. Yes, you got to honour your mother and your father. You do all you can within your powers to help them. But at the end of the day, the will of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua comes first. It's not optional. That's the those are the requirements. And if you can't meet the requirements, it is what it is. It is what it is. And as I say, this is a difficult thing. Not everybody is growing up with the mindset that I grew up with. I understand that. And it's going to take time to get there. But it's what you should be striving towards. It's what you should be working towards day by day. day by day, little by little, just putting off the old man, becoming more and more in the prophecies, in the word, in the will of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, and all those things that are in the world, they'll just gradually start to fade away. I want to tell a brief story. A couple years back, maybe 2017, had some builders come in and do some work on my home, and they left some big holes in the kitchen, which we didn't know about at first. Those holes allowed eventually mice to come in, and we had mice running around the house. And I don't like mice, fucking can't stand them, but you know, they are what they are and they do what they do, but they're unclean animals. So I was trying to get rid of them. So I laid traps, bang, 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 caught a good number of them, got rid of them, found the holes, started sealing them up. Now, towards the end of this situation, there was a situation where I left some traps, went out, came home a few hours later, and I found that the trap had moved. And I was like, what the hell? Where the hell did the trap go? So I'm looking around the room trying to find where the mouse trap had gone. And I found that under the table, the trap was there and the mouse was there. Now what had happened is the mouse had triggered the trap, but its head had not got caught, but the trap had just caught the mouse's leg. So the mouse had sort of like scurried along and hid under the table, but it was still trapped, but it's just this arm that was caught. So the mouse wasn't dead, and it was just sitting there. So I saw this and I thought to myself, my heart went out to it a bit because, you know, I do love animals. But at the end of the day, I can't have mice in my home. So I was looking at it, I thought to myself, well, this is a bit of an interesting situation. What shall I do? And the mouse was just sitting there, you know. And I thought to myself, well, shall I let it out the trap? Well, if I let it out the trap, what's it going to do? It's only going to probably run around and hide somewhere, then breed, and then I'll have more mice in the home. So I can't do that. And, you know, I can't throw it out in the street because they have a habit of finding their way back and stuff like that. So what am I going to do? I thought, you know what, man? I have to make the hard decision here. I have to kill this mouse. So, me, at that time, I thought, you know what, but I don't really want to kill it because I generally don't like to kill things. Like if I find like flies in the house or moths and stuff, or spiders, I usually don't kill them. I just trap them and throw them out in the garden or whatever, throw them out in the street. I usually don't kill them, but in this situation, I thought to myself, look, you know what, man? You've got this problem. You want to get rid of this infestation. So therefore, you have to be a man and you have to make this tough decision. You have to put this mouse to death. Yeah? So what I did is I got another trap and I just, because you know in the mouse trap, it goes like that. I just put it next to the mouse and I've triggered it and it caught the mouse's head. The mouse died. And I thought to the situation about myself, and I thought to myself, you know, this is interesting because every situation that we go through in our life is the Most High doing it to teach us a lesson. And when I looked at that situation, I thought it was spiritual because that is an example of how demons can work. Like, you could use a mouse infestation like a demon infestation, you know. If you're trying to get rid of the demons in your own spirit, and you get rid of 90% of them, but there's that one demon left, and you're like, you know what, man, I'm going to let that demon go. What do the scriptures say? Let me get it. Bear with me while I find it. Bear with me. Yeah, Matthew chapter 12. This is Matthew chapter 12 and verse 43. When an unclean spirit is gone out of a man, he walketh through dry places, seeking rest, and findeth none. Then he saith, I will return unto my house from whence I came out. And when he is come, he findeth it empty, swept, and garnished. Then goeth he, and taketh with him 7 other spirits, more wicked than himself, and they enter in and dwell there. And the last state of that man is worse than the first. Even so shall it be also unto this wicked generation. Now, let me read that again. Matthew 12 and verse 43. When an unclean spirit is gone out of a man, he walketh through dry places, seeking rest, and findeth none. Now that's like the mouse infestation I had. If I'd have thrown that mouse out in the street, that mouse would have walked around through dry places, seeking rest, and findeth none. Then the mouse would say, I will return unto my house from whence I came out. And when he is come, he findeth it empty, swept, and garnished. Then goeth he, and taketh from himself 7 other spirits, more wicked than himself, and they enter in and dwell there. And the last state of that man is worse than the first. Even so shall it be unto this wicked generation. So I'm using that mouse as a metaphor for dealing with demons. I put the mouse down. I cleared up the infestation. No mouse problems again since, all thanks to the will of, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. But the point is that I dealt with the situation. I had to make the hard decision. I had to make the hard decision to put my emotions and feelings for the cute little mouse aside and put the mouse down for the greater good. And it's the same with our emotions, because if you want to be emotional about stuff and you're like, that's my mama, that's my girlfriend, man, that's my baby mama, man. If you're going to be all up in that, you're not going to deal with the problem. Yeah, you might clip prune off a couple, trim the bush a bit, but the bush is still there. It's going to grow back. So you've got to deal with these problems, man. This comes back again to having rule over your own spirit. I want to bring out another example, man. If you remember the story of King David, he had a friend called Jonathan, who was the son of King Saul. And David and Jonathan were like that. They were kindred spirits. Jonathan was a righteous dude. He helped King David when he was being persecuted by King Saul. Jonathan was a righteous dude. But guess what? Let me get this precept. I'm going to 1 Samuel, the 28th chapter. Samuel, alright. I'm going to start from the top and read on down to give context to this story. 1 Samuel 28:1. And it came to pass in those days that the Philistines gathered their armies together for warfare, to fight with Israel. And Achish said unto David, Know thou assuredly that thou shalt go out with me to battle, thou and thy men. And David said to Achish, Surely thou shalt know what thy servant can do. And Achish said to David, Therefore will I make thee the keeper of mine head forever. Now Samuel was dead, and all Israel had lamented him, and buried him in Ramah, even in his own city. And Saul had put away those that had familiar spirits, and the wizards out of the land. And the Philistines gathered themselves together, and came and pitched in Shunem. And Saul gathered all Israel together, and they pitched at Gilboa. And Saul saw that the host of the Philistines, and when Saul saw the host of the Philistines, he was afraid, and his heart greatly trembled. And when Saul inquired of Yahweh, Yahweh answered him not, neither by dreams, nor by Urim, nor by prophets. Then said Saul unto his servants, Seek me a woman that hath a familiar spirit, that I may go to her, and inquire of her. And his servants said unto him, Behold, there is a woman that hath a familiar spirit at Endor. And Saul disguised himself, and put on other raiment, and he went, and 2 men with him. And they came to the woman by night. And he said, I pray thee, divine unto me by the familiar spirit, and bring me him up, whom I shall name unto thee. And the woman said unto him, Behold, thou knowest what Saul hath done, how he hath cut off those that have familiar spirits and the wizards out of the land. Wherefore then layest thou a snare for my life to cause me to die? And Saul swore by her to Yahweh, saying, As Yahweh liveth, there shall no punishment happen to thee for this thing. Then said the woman, Whom shall I bring up to thee? And he said, Bring me up Samuel. And when the woman saw Samuel, she cried with a loud voice. And the woman spake to Saul, saying, Why hast thou deceived me, for thou art Saul? And the king said unto her, Be not afraid, for what sawest thou? And the woman said unto Saul, I saw gods ascending out of the earth. That's a god with a little g, meaning she saw the spirits of the Israelites going up out of the earth. And he said unto her, What form is he of? And she said, An old man cometh up, and he is covered with a mantle. And Saul perceived that it was Samuel, and he stooped his face to the ground and bowed himself. And Samuel said to Saul, Why hast thou disquieted me to bring me up? And Saul answered, I am sore distressed, for the Philistines make war against me, and the Most High has departed from me, and he answereth me no more, neither by prophets nor by dreams. Therefore I have called thee, that thou mayest make known unto me what I shall do. So the Spirit of the Lord had departed from Saul, just as Samuel had prophesied many years before. And it says in verse 16, this is the book of 1 Samuel 28 and 16. Then Samuel said to Saul, Where therefore dost thou ask of me this of me, seeing that Yahweh is departed from thee and is become thine enemy? So that's a scary thing. Think about it. When the Spirit of the Lord departs from you, you then become the enemy of the Most High. That's not a place you want to be in. Now the Spirit of the Lord might depart from you if you set your affections on things that are inordinate. You know, if you're setting your affections on the things of the world first, Yahweh's going to give you over to those things. And say, okay, you know what, man? If you love those things more than me, go enjoy them. But there's going to be a price for that. Verse 16, Then Samuel said, Wherefore dost thou ask this of me, saying that Yahweh is departed from thee, and is become thine enemy? And that Yahweh have done to him as he spake by me, for Yahweh hath rent the kingdom out of thine hand, and given it to thy neighbour, even to David. Because thou obeyedest not the voice of Yahweh, nor executed his fierce wrath upon Amalek. Therefore hath Yahweh done this thing to thee this day. Now I'm going to use another analogy. If I didn't execute that judgment against that mouse I caught by putting it down and, you know, disposing of it, I would still be in that same problem of having my mouse running all up and down the house, shitting everywhere and all this kind of shit. I wouldn't have dealt with the problem. I hadn't put him down. Just in the same way that Saul was supposed to deal with Amalek. He wasn't supposed to spare Amalek and his sheep and stuff. He was supposed to put Amalek down. See? And I'm talking about this because I'm going back to the subject of our own inner demons. We're supposed to put them down too. Not leave... You know, you can't sweep 90% of the room and leave one corner dirty, because the demons will fester in that corner, and then they'll go stronger, and then you'll get your house, your home, your body will be overrun again by these demons. So verse 17. No, it's lucky I've read that. Verse 19. Moreover, Yahweh will deliver Israel with thee into the hand of the Philistines, and tomorrow thou and thy sons be with me. It's lucky, let me read that. Moreover, Yahweh will also deliver Israel into thine hand of the Philistines, and tomorrow shall thou and thy sons be with me, and Yahweh shall also deliver the host of Israel into the hands of the Philistines. Now that was a heavy judgment, because meaning that they're going to be with Samuel, meaning tomorrow they're going to be dead, meaning that Yahweh passed judgment. He's going to, like, you know, Saul's going to die tomorrow against the Philistines and his sons. Now the reason why I'm reading this is because you've got to remember what happened to Jonathan. Jonathan was a righteous dude and he loved King David. He helped him, all this kind of stuff. But guess what? Jonathan also perished the same day that King Saul perished. Why? Why did Jonathan perish? If you think about it, yeah? If Jonathan was rolling with King David, would he have died? Like if Jonathan said, you know what, man, Saul, I love you, you're my dad, I love you, you know, because you're my father, but I'm not going to be with you in battle tomorrow, I'm going to be by the side of King David. Would Jonathan have lived, or would he have died? But Jonathan got caught up in his emotions because Saul was his dad. He was like, you know what, man, even though Saul's been going off and all this kind of shit, he's still my dad, man. I still got to be with him, man. I'm going to be there tomorrow with him, man, because after all, he's my dad. Jonathan got caught up in his emotions. Jonathan chose to be by the side of King Saul, and when King Saul fell, when the judgment came upon when the judgment fell upon King Saul, Jonathan got caught up in that too. And this is why we can't get caught up in our emotions, and we can't put our parents on pedestals and think that, you know, but this and but that. No. Will of the Most High comes first. Verse 20. Then Saul fell straight away all along on the earth, and was sore afraid because of the words of Samuel, and there was no strength in him, for he had eaten no bread all the day nor the night. You know? So that's the point of that. Let me bear with me. Yeah. I'm going to read 1 Samuel verse 31. Now the Philistines fought against Israel, and the men of Israel fled from before the Philistines and fell down slain in Mount Gilboa. And the Philistines followed hard upon Saul and upon his sons. And the Philistines slew Jonathan and Abinadab and Malchus, Saul's sons. You know, and the battle went sore against Saul, and the archers hit him, and he was sore wounded of the archers. Then Saul said unto his armour-bearer, draw thy sword and thrust me through therewith, lest the uncircumcised come and thrust me through and abuse me. But his armour-bearer would not, for he was sore afraid. Then Saul took a sword and fell upon it. And when his armour-bearer saw that Saul was dead, he fell likewise upon his sword and died with him. So Saul died, and his 3 sons, and his armour-bearer, and all his men the same day together. Why? Because Saul went off. So, moral of the story is this, because there's always a moral to the story. Yes, you're going to love your parents. Yes, you're going to love your wife and your family and this stuff, but there comes a point where you have to draw a line. And you have to be like, you know what, man? I can't be getting too emotional about these people, because at the end of the day, the will of the Lord has to come first. You know, and you have to, the battle lines are quite clear. Yahushua is quite specific, you know. He that loveth mother or father or son or daughter or wife or brethren more than me is not worthy of me. So do you want to be worthy of the Lord? Well then, if you do, which you should, James 4:4 applies. And there's no negotiation in this thing. This isn't a debate, man. You don't debate with Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. Yahweh Hashem Yahushai tells you what it is, and you got to say, you know what, man? I got to put my emotions aside and deal with what it is according to the will of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. There's no room for emotions in this truth, because emotions only lead to stupid shit, man. Childish shit. Forgive me, as I don't mean to knock anybody or anything like that. As I say, we're all different. We're all gonna have different. We're all at different levels in our walk. But me, I'm just very hard-minded about stuff, because as I say, it's not a negotiation. James 4:4: Ye adulterers and adulteresses, know ye not that the friendship of the world is enmity with the Most High? Whosoever therefore will be a friend of the world is the enemy of the Most High. James 4:4. It's not negotiable. It just is what it is. And the scriptures also say the day of one's death is greater than the day of one's birth. Let me get that. I believe that's in Ecclesiastes. Yeah, Ecclesiastes chapter 7 verse 1. This says, a good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of death than the day of one's birth. Let me read that again because there's a little distraction there. A good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of death than the day of one's birth. You know, if your parents have passed away, guess what? They're in the spiritual realm now, and they're happier than they've ever been when they was on the earth. You know, because they're at rest. We've got to remember that, you know, to quote Tupac, no matter how you try, niggas never die. Let me put it this way. They're not dead, they're just sleeping. And they're going to be brought back in their right mind. And they're going to enjoy their life to the fullest when they come back. So if your parents or a loved one has died now, in this time, you've got to consider to yourself that maybe the Most High had mercy upon them. Because maybe he spared them the judgment of getting burnt up with the nukes and the chariots. Because if they're not going to make it, they're going to perish anyway. So what difference does it make? You know, you're going to see them again. They're not gone. You know, they're not. We should know this through the comfort of the scriptures. And this is another thing as well. I find that fear comes through uncertainty. You know, when you're uncertain about something, you're generally afraid of it. But there's no reason to be uncertain because we have the comfort of the scriptures. The scriptures have told us all we need to know. So therefore, there's no need to be afraid of these things. There's no need to be afraid. There's no need to feel anything overly emotional about it. But there's a problem. The problem comes where if you haven't done what you know you should have done, that's where regret and guilt can come in. Because regret and guilt are demons too. There's demons are behind all of these things, yeah? And a demon might make you feel like, oh, I should have done this. Maybe I should have said this to her or done this for her before she passed or before he passed or whatever. And then you start to feel regret and guilt. And those are all just wayward emotions that demons are playing, you know, plucking the strings like a harp, playing a tune on you. So you need to deal with that stuff, man. If there's stuff you didn't say, if there's stuff you didn't do, if you didn't let them know this or that, whatever. Okay, maybe you made a mistake. Whatever, man. It's done. You can't go back and change the past. You can't change the past. All you can deal with is the here and now and move towards the future. You can't allow yourself to be beaten up by emotions over things that took place in the past. And it all depends on how you live your life. Me, I'm the type of guy who I don't have regrets generally because the decisions I make in my own life, I make them seriously and I think, you know what? Is this a decision that I can live with? And most of the times, the decisions that I make end up being the right ones. And sometimes the right decisions aren't always the easy ones. But the point is that you may make an easy decision in the moment and have an easy solution right now, but then you may have to deal with the regret that comes in the future. That's the price of making an easy decision. Whereas if you make the hard decision now, it may be hard in this moment, but guess what? You won't live with regrets. And by not living with regrets, you're not allowing that regret demon to jump on you and start playing with your emotions and make you feel all kinds of ways. So, back to the whole point of this topic. Trust in the Lord. Matthew 6. Matthew 6, yeah. It says, Matthew 6 verse 9, after this manner therefore pray ye, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Yeah? So you're praying for Yahweh's kingdom to come. It's not, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. My kingdom come. No, it's your kingdom come. Yeah? Thy will, not my will, be done in earth as it is in heaven. So let me put it this way. If your parents have passed away, or your wife, or whoever's passed away, who are you? Who are you to question the judgment of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai? Who are you to feel any way about it? You haven't got the luxury of an opinion. It just is what it is. It's the will of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai, and his will has to be respected because he is the only righteous, all righteous being. He knows better than any of us do. So his judgment is perfect. It is beautiful. It may be hard to take because of our flesh. We may feel things in our emotions, but his judgment is right. And his judgment is what should stand and is what will stand. And our emotions don't even factor into the equations. The only things our emotions do is open up opportunities for demons to attack us. So I learned a lesson there. Lord willing, it's been edifying. And again, I don't mean to sound hard or anything because, you know, beautiful, beautiful brother who caused me to reflect on this stuff. And, you know, I pray for him and I hope that his pain will be eased. You know, because as I say, I understand everybody's on different levels in their walks. Not everybody's going to come to this thing with the mindset that I've got. You know, we might need to work to get there. There's things that I need to work on in myself to improve too. Let me just give a brief example, because if I was to give into my emotions, man, I would be a very, very confrontational person. Because, you know, if I was to give into the things that I feel, you know, I'd be getting into all kinds of confrontations and fights and all this kind of stuff because I've got a lot of anger in me and I have to work to keep that anger in check. Thankfully, Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai has given me a spirit to be able to manage it. But, you know, that comes back to me not giving into my emotions, because my emotions would lead me down that path of being, you know, that type of person, which I don't want to be. I want to be a man of the Lord. Anyway, I've said enough. Lord willing, this was edifying. Giving all praise and all glory unto Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. Bah Hashem Rakakudash. Double honours to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone at Woolwell. Shalom to you, Akim, that are teaching this word with faith in truth and in sincerity. And until the next lesson I do, Lord willing, I will say shalom and stay strong. And yeah, remember to have rule over your own spirit. Let me get one more precept. One more precept.